Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ave Maria Press Professional Development Webinar Series. In this webinar, Michael Amodei, a longtime catechist, book editor, and author, will share practical ways to tap into the memories and experiences of older Catholics and what meaning these memories have for us all. My name is Erin Pierce. I am the interim publicist and strategic partnerships manager at Ave Maria Press. Everyone in the audience is muted today, but you are able to ask questions. Questions can be sent to our presenter using the questions section of the GoToWebinar panel, and I'll read as many of those as possible at the end of the presentation today. This webinar is being recorded, and I will send you a link to the recording via email tomorrow. With that, I would like to welcome and introduce our presenter today. Michael Amodei is Executive Director and Curriculum Development Manager at Ave Maria Press, where he writes and edits Catholic high school religion textbooks. He is the author also of several books and has acquired a number of spiritual books for Ave. Amodei earned his bachelor's degree in English from Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, California, where he also earned a master's degree in religious education. Amodei previously served as Director of Religious Education and as a youth minister at St. Monica Catholic Church in Santa Monica, California. He also served as a math, religion, and gym teacher, as well as a Catholic youth organization sports coach at St. Monica Elementary School. He is leader of the Ave Maria Press chapter of Catholic Relief Services, a member of the Association of Catholic Publishers, and a third degree in the Knights of Columbus. Amodei has been a youth sports coach for more than 40 years and is the field supervisor for home football games at the University of Notre Dame. Mike, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Erin.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter.
Okay.
All right, there you go. I'll let you take it from here.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. It's nice to be on this webcast web podcast that I walked to Erin's office for many years and seen her doing these, and now here I am on it. So pretty cool. Boy, and you know what? I'm probably going to mess up some of these slides, but that's okay because I'm on the right one. Yeah, I wanted to talk today about older Catholics and some ways that we can reach out to older Catholics. First of all, like in your mind, how do you think of an older Catholic? This is how I kind of do. It's like those people that were raised in a church where there was like 40 kids or 50 kids or 60 kids in a Catholic school classroom with one nun running the show, or maybe Knights of Columbus members with the big hats in church. Sometimes the Catholics that were going to confession every Saturday. I know that way back in my memory, I remember my parents kind of doing that. My dad had to work on Saturday, so he didn't go to confession every week like my mom did. But and when that happened, he hardly ever went to communion because he thought unless he went to confession and confessed every single thing he did that week, he couldn't go to communion. So I only saw him go to communion like a couple times a year. Or you might think of an older Catholic as, you know, the grandmother who's always praying the rosary, who around your holiday tables is, you know, the real old person, and definitely not you, definitely not me. But in reality, we're old people now, or at least I am. And, you know, these kids on the left here that first met up with the Beatles back in 1964, like 60 years ago, this last month, and those Beatles on the right, they're all older than me. So they're the old people. And look at those kids on the left. They look cool. Those girls were probably in high school when I was in first grade. So I'm younger than them. So that means also they're older than me now, which is just weird. So, you know, old people today are like cooler, you know, they look like these ladies on the left and like Ringo and Paul, you know. So when we think about older people that we're going to encounter, you know, around the parish, got to kind of wipe out that impression that we had of old people just when we ourselves were younger and even now. So yeah, I'm old, even that picture on the left, I was just telling Aaron, I mean, that's like we were talking, I think it's 2017. So that's 7 years ago. You already saw my image on the webcam. So add 7 years. I'm 66 now, and but I still think of myself as that 12-year-old kid playing little league baseball with long blonde hair, um, and with a lot of dreams ahead and a full life ahead. But the reality is that's not really true anymore. So at 66, let's talk reality. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years and I'm out, I'm off this planet, 76, 80, do the math. So, and like when we talk in those kind of terms, like 10 to 12 years, that's like the time I went from grade 1 through 12. That was like a fast little blurb on in time. And even when my own kids went to school, grades 1 through 12, that went by so fast. So that's about what I got left, and maybe a little more, maybe a little less, maybe tomorrow, who knows. So at this age, you know, uh, it's time to think about what's coming up ahead. And for me, it's to think about something called our particular judgment. What's going to happen to me right at the moment of death. And it's kind of an unusual thing to do for a Catholic my age, because like those pictures from that first slide of those older people that, were going to confession once a week or praying the rosary all the time. I didn't grow up like that. I was born in 1957, so, and I did not go to Catholic school. So when I started CCD in 1962 in first grade, Vatican II was just getting underway. And, the changes that came with Vatican II weren't even thought of yet. So those first couple of years, first and second grade in CCD, I was going through, Latin songs. I remember for first communion, we tried to learn Tantum Ergo, and I think they gave up on us at a certain point. Um, we had, a catechism book that we're using in first and second grade, trying to memorize answers to questions. And I remember something that was really kind of neat back then. My teacher was Mrs. Conroe. I still remember. She did a lot with the Bible at that time and told us stories about Jesus and, the parables and miracles, and it was all very exciting. And then, so that was 62, now second grade, third grade. Now the changes with Vatican II are starting to come, and CCD definitely changed, at that point. Um, I'm a book publisher, so I know the history of books that were used in catechesis way back when. And some of those first books around that era for grade school kids had like 1 and 2 words on a page. They had pictures of big plants and butterflies, and the CCD class didn't do a lot on the Bible around that time. They were like, we lit a candle in the room and we kind of reflected around the candle, whatever. We cut out pages from Life magazine and we made collages of all the social changes that were going on in the 60s. It was good, but I wasn't quite endowed with the type of Catholic identity the previous generation had. And so, I mean, I think like being at this point and being still a Catholic, working at a Catholic publisher, all those kinds of things, how did it happen? How did I still remain in the church and learn some of these things? I mean, I kind of believe in osmosis a little bit. It just kind of happened. I know that the Catholic culture element that we were losing, one Friday we had to eat no fish on Friday. The next Friday we didn't have to anymore. I was preparing to be an altar boy. I learned prayers at the foot of the altar. My mom was telling me I had to memorize these, this and that. And the next thing I knew, I didn't, because we didn't have to use them. So how did I continue to learn about the faith and still become an old Catholic like I am now? A lot of it was from, my parents for sure, sharing stories about when they were younger. I mean, my mom and dad both went to Catholic school, and they would talk about nuns and growing up and my mom playing the organ at mass. So there was some of that. And, I'm here at Notre Dame, and, Aaron mentioned that I'm work at football games. I've done that for 30 years. Well, I've always been a Notre Dame fan. And, you kind of laugh it off, but growing up in California, in Southern California, my uncle, encouraged me to be a Notre Dame football fan. So I can remember the Saturdays raking the leaves in the fall, what few leaves there were in Southern California, probably 75 degrees outside, but still listening to Notre Dame football games on the radio. And that was kind of a sense of Catholic pride that was still around at that time. And he would take me to the games and do all those kinds of things with me. So I know I wanted to be a cultural Catholic and wanted to still practice my faith. And I hung in there like a lot of my peers did. And, and I don't want to act like those years of catechesis, everything was better before, memorizing catechism questions and answers, and everything was worse later, because it wasn't. Because definitely during that time, I think gained something that my parents and other generations didn't have. I learned to know about Jesus in a personal way, a lot more than they did. And I learned to kind of recognize God's presence in a more personal way than they did. So there's definitely that. And so anyway, that's kind of where I find myself now as a Catholic. And like I said, again, 10, 15, 20 years left before, what's called the particular judgment. And, see if this works. When I did become a Knights of Columbus, this was one of the, I became one just because my dad did, and I wanted to get life insurance originally. But joining the Knights, one of the first things that we said on the swearing in basically was, time flies, remember death, tempus fugit, memento mori. There's always times during your life that you have to keep your death as part of in your consciousness. You can't just forget about it, and you have to realize that what's coming at the moment of your death. And it's I listen to a lot of Archbishop Sheen, at least on YouTube videos. I kind of love the old shows that he had on in the 1950s. When he talks about the particular judgment, he said one of the things he said was, hey, don't think that you're going to have like a 24-hour preparation to like get your ducks in a row, your resume together, get everything that you've done in this life, and then be able to present and argue a case with Jesus. No, I mean, it happens immediately. So you leave this world, and the next thing you know, you're face to face with Jesus. And I want it to be a good meeting. Like, I mean, I'm just going to say it, like all through eternity, I know he's going to be present, and we're going to be contemplating his mystery and his love. But like, is this where he really gets to focus on me one-on-one? I think that'll be great, that he gets to do that, and I want to make the most of it. So I don't know, what about you, and like how you guys think of your particular judgment? But I want to look forward to it. And you see the picture of the guy there in the theater. I've got to describe like what I really imagine it to look like. I think that at the moment of death, I grew up in Southern California, so I picture myself like in one of those big waves, like body surfing, and now the wave messed you up and crashed to the ground, and you think you're never going to come up to the surface again, never going to breathe, but poof, all of a sudden you do. You do catch your breath, and then all of a sudden I picture myself in a theater like that guy there. And it's going to be like a really classy theater. It's like maybe even a theater in the round. If you used to go to Disneyland or Disney World, they used to have an American Beautiful display, theater in the round, where you would like look all around 360 and see images. And so looking at this theater, it's going to seem like I'm all alone. I'm in darkness. And when the movie begins, I think the first scene is going to be something like seeing a man pushing a woman out to a car, 1950s looking cars in my case, and the woman in the wheelchair, she's in a wheelchair and she's holding a baby. And as I look closely, I realize, hey, that's my dad. He had hair at one point, and that's my mom, and that baby must be me. And so right from the beginning, I realized I'm watching a story of my life, and it's really enjoyable at the beginning because of all the love that was in the home, sharing times with my parents, the warmth of Sunday night dinners and watching Ed Sullivan. And if I was good, getting to stay up and watch, actually, if I was good, I got to stay and watch the beginning of Ed Sullivan. I always got to watch Timmy and Lassie, and sometimes Dennis the Menace. So pizza on Sunday nights and those, if you remember back then, I remember like there was like these 20-ounce glass bottles of 7 Up, and that was like the large size. And once a week, my dad would buy those and he would pour us just a little bit of 7 Up. We'd have a slice of pizza and we'd watch these shows and the house was warm. And what a great feeling. And I think I'll get to see that again on the movie screen there. So everything's looking great. And I can't believe how my parents are such good actors on this, in this screen, in this movie that I'm watching. And, as I get older and I'm able to talk, I'm pretty good too, and so the movie goes on and I'm enjoying it. It's not showing every minute of every waking hour, but just key scenes. They all seem to have some kind of meaning, the scenes that I'm watching. So I'm reviewing in my life. And so things are going well in whatever this new realm is. And now we start to reach around the age of 10, and I'm in 5th grade. And I had a great teacher that year, Miss Seidler, and I'm looking forward to that year as well. And now the lights in the theater rise a little bit. And I look around and, oh, right behind me, that kind of looks like Miss Seidler. I'm not sure if it's her. And then I see another person there. It's a boy that's about 10 years old. And he has glasses on and he has a World's Fair shirt, 1964, New York World's Fair. And I have no idea who he is. And then the movie continues and I see myself and I'm out on a basketball court and I see all my friends and we're about to start our practice for our team. And then I start to have a funny feeling because I remember who the boy with the glasses is. And here he comes in the movie and his name is John Homan. And when he gets up to me, I'm the one that goes right to him and says, "Hey, go away. I don't want you on our team. You're not good enough." And, it's very hurtful to watch this in the movie theater. And then all of a sudden, and God can do this because he's a masterful director, better than any one that won an Oscar the other night. But there's a cutaway, and now we're in a black and white scene on the screen. And I'm watching John Homan in his kitchen with his mom at age 10, and he's crying and he's telling her what happened at school. And I'm feeling really awful about what I saw. Um, and then the movie goes on, and some of those same types of good moments and bad moments, etc., all the way up to the present time, the time that I died, I'm getting to see how I live my life. I don't get to make any case and argue about it. It is what it is, and it kind of judges itself. So that's how I kind of imagine the particular judgment. And from that point on, the decision will be made: straight to heaven, purgatory, or hell. Um, the good news, 2 points of good news along the way, as you already know as Catholics: if I was sorry for that sin that I did in 6th grade, if I said I was sorry to John, if I'd gone to confession at that point, again, the masterful film editor wouldn't even showed it to me. It would have been wiped out. So confession is really, really important there. And then the other thing is that the person watching this with me, Jesus, the judge, second person of the Trinity, Jesus, not like the Aramaic 1st century guy, human person with the long hair. It's going to be Jesus in his full majesty as king, whatever form that has. And I'm sure it's a form of light and goodness and love. He has a lot of mercy, and he'll be there with me as well to look at this film. So that's how I imagine that to go. And it's something I think about now at someone age 66. And I just want to say that there's a lot of people around your church, older people that who are probably got those same kind of thoughts, or at least should have those thoughts. They should be reminded that occasionally they need to think about their own death. Time flies, remember death. And before I go on, I got to tell you this postscript to the John Homan story, the kid I told at age 10 not to play on our team. He left that school at that point. And I never saw him again. So 5th grade on, never saw this guy again. And always kind of wondered about him. I have a son that's like on the autism spectrum. And when I look back in my elementary years, I'm like, were there any kids back then that were autistic, but they didn't have special ed and those kinds of things? And I always kind of centered around John. I thought, maybe that's why I picked on him as a bully, he was different. So I did wonder about him all those years. And last June, after I'd already written a book that has this story in it, I also wrote an article that appeared on Angelus News Service, and it was about baseball and the Dodgers and religion and stuff. And sitting in my backyard in the summer, I got a message on LinkedIn from a guy named John Homan. I couldn't believe it. So after all those years, almost 60 years, I get this message, and John had said, "Hey, you probably don't remember me. I'm living in Virginia now. I read your article. I was in grade school with you." That's basically it. And it just, a God moment for sure. And I reached out back to John and told him, of course, I remembered him. And very soon into the back and forth on the messages, I told him that I was sorry for what I did. I'm sure he remembered it. He never said he did, but he didn't never said he didn't either. And then the real postscript of the story is this. He said, "Hey, I see you work at Notre Dame, and my son went to Notre Dame about 10 years ago, and ever since we've been coming to games every year, at least one game. And I'm going to come to a game this year, the Pittsburgh game. It'd be great to meet up with you." I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." So the way things worked out, John's schedule was tight. He couldn't meet up for dinner afterwards. He said he didn't need a ticket to the game. So I said, "How about a parking pass?" And parking passes are hard to get. And I got him an elite parking pass right near the stadium. If he wanted to tailgate, he could have. I don't think he did. So I got him this parking pass. And even though we couldn't meet for dinner, we agreed to meet right after the game near the entrance of the stadium. And so when I finally found him, he was with his son. I walked up and I said, "Hey, John, how you doing?" Gave him a hug. He looked pretty much the same as I remembered him as a 5th grader, glasses, the whole thing. And a couple seconds into the conversation, I said, "Hey, now in person, I do want to apologize again for how I treated you back in 5th grade." And John said to me, he's like, "Hey, don't worry about it. You got me the parking pass." So, my thought going home that night was, if John Homan can show that much mercy to me, I think I believe in a God that probably has at least equal amount of mercy, even for the sins that I don't get to confession about. So anyway, this part about our particular judgment, it's something I think about. And I think it's something that older people around your parish probably think about too. So, how can you help them prepare? Because right now we're living in time. We're not going to be living in time when we get to eternity, but right now, living in time, this is the time, this is how we work out our salvation. God only gives us enough time. He doesn't let us live 400 years or 300 years, 200 years, and I don't think we'd want to. We just have enough time right now to work out our own salvation with Jesus by making good choices. So, in the time we have left as an older person, are there things we can do to, I don't want to say enhance the resume, but at least to kind of fine tune our own faith and our own faith life? And I think there are. And so I was going to give you a few of those. So, um, first thing you can do is to examine your life, is to take a good look at your life. And like, again, when you meet with Jesus, I don't want to be like fake. I mean, I'm fake in enough places, and I have been in, I think we all are. We put on different faces for different people, no matter how hard we try not to. Like, we want to be our real selves. And I always think back to when I was in high school, like I was a real studious kid. I played sports and I wasn't a nerd or anything like that, but I did not go out and party. That's for sure. I stayed home on Saturday nights watching like All in the Family and Mary Tyler Moore and going to bed. And that said, I also didn't go to proms and dances, didn't have girlfriends, all those kinds of things either in high school. And I wanted that to change when I went to college. So when I went to college, I did change, and I had friends that acted that other way in high school. So I was watching them. I knew how to do it just by watching them. So I became this person that I really wasn't. I was like loud and bold, and I started drinking beers just like any other college kid at that time. And, you know, I still was a pretty good student. My grades were good the first couple semesters there. But by the second year, my grades were gone. I was like, I'm going to say like, I can tell you like 3.8, 3.9, but really I was a 4.0 student in high school. And now my second year of college, the grades were dropping. They were like 3.1, and that was like a killer to me, a 3.2. And plus, I was already, I could already tell I didn't really like myself, my new self. And I had a girl that I did go to high school with who lived in my hometown. I went to LMU in LA, and I would drive her home sometimes on weekends. And at one point, she just point blank told me, she's like, I liked you better before. You don't have to be like you're acting at college. Just stay the way you were. That kind of hit home. And so I did have this talk with myself. And, I thought, I'm going to change. I can remember where I was. I was sitting in the library at LMU. And I thought, I'm going to go back to be the way that I was. And, that was the first of many, many talks I've had with myself over the course of my life. And I think in these last few years, I want to have an even more serious talk with myself. I want to nail this down. Who am I really? Because when I meet Jesus, I want him to, I want to be the real me. I know he's going to already know the real me, but I don't want to have any like misconceptions when I go in there. Like, I don't want him to say, hey, cut, cut the, what, just be the real you. So, for older people, there's a way to do that. I mean, I think help them with examination of their lives. You might even suggest spiritual direction at that point. They might be spiritual directors for each other, if you're around the parish doing that kind of thing. And then also along with that, a return to confession. I could say that, I'm talking to you on a Catholic podcast, so confession might be something that you do and that people you work around do, but not everyone does it, and not everyone goes to confession. So you might suggest a return to confession. You might suggest particular times during the year: Lent, Advent. I always say Lent, Advent, end of the school year or beginning of summer, and end of summer or beginning of the school year. There's 4 natural times you can go, even if you haven't committed a mortal sin. So you can help older people remember that kind of thing. Another thing is to remind them to pray, and intentionally. And like, again, it's not something like, you're not going to become a monk or a nun or, perpetual adoration every day, sitting in the chapel, going through all these old time Catholic prayers. You're not going to do all that. But we waste so much time. Like, my mind is just like, if I am in the car, like my mind will like go to lots of different things. Oh man, my 401k lost some more money today. Oh God, who did the Dodgers trade for? All kinds of stuff like that. Oh, my family's I got to pick up my son. There's got to be some things that some time of the day where we actually focus and pray intentionally. And 2 ways I think to start with and to remind people of, like, just offer the day to God, make a morning offering every morning, offer everything that comes up during the day, good things, bad things, sufferings, people that you encounter. Make that morning offering every morning. It's real simple to do. And then at night, do a same kind of thing, do an examen of the day. And this came home. The reason I've got this picture here of the pharmacy is like, it was just a week or 2 ago. I wanted to go to the pharmacy and pick up some prescriptions, and I was going to do it at lunch. I wanted to get it done at lunch because I wanted to come home. I wanted to actually watch a Notre Dame basketball game. I wanted to have my dinner. I wanted everything to run as I wanted it to run. And at lunch, my wife asked me to do something. I had to go pick her up and take her somewhere. And so my whole schedule got messed up. So I had to go to the pharmacy after dinner instead. It was still open. And when I turned around after I got in line, I ran into this guy that I hadn't seen in about 10 years. And his kids played youth sports with my kids. And I really liked him back in the day. We used to talk all the time. I hadn't seen him in 10 years. And so started talking to him, asking about his family. It turns out his oldest daughter had stage 4 stomach cancer. And we ended up talking for about 20 minutes. And there's not much, of course, you can say except, pray for her, hope things go well, but just kind of listening to him and having the conversation, promising to stay in touch, asking about his other kids, how things are going, those kinds of things. So my examen that night was, when I went through my day, I thought God really worked that out. So I didn't go to the pharmacy at lunchtime when I wanted to, that I would go at that particular moment and run into this particular person and have that conversation and to remember his daughter in prayer. So, at this point in our lives, we need to make prayer a big part of it. We can't just waste our mind with all kinds of thoughts. I mean, even think of like the election year and all the different things going on with that. I mean, is it really necessary in a lot of ways when you got 10 or 15 years to go to get all wrapped up in some of the stuff we get wrapped up in? So that's another thing to remind older people of. And then, this one's kind of built in as far as being around a parish. If you have parish programming, and older people would really enjoy this, I believe, in a lot of different ways to study the Bible. The images on the left are, I tried to find something like a burlap chart because Mrs. Conroe in first and second grade CCD, before the butterflies and trees and the books and the one words in the books took over, she had a burlap chart and did all the Bible stories with these felt figures, and they were great. And that's kind of my first memory of learning about Jesus and the miracle stories and the parables and everything he thought. And my first introduction, really, when you have to admit it, to the Bible, because all those stories that were coming right from the Bible. Then I went into a Bible wasteland, which is ironic because Vatican II wanted to increase, and it did. It increased the use of the Bible in the church. But personally, for me, it wasn't the case. My family didn't even have a Bible in the house. We had like Our Lady of Fatima pamphlets and all kinds of trinkets and stuff, but no Bible. And so, like, I think back on my experience with the Bible. Well, when I was in third grade, Charlie Brown Christmas came out, and I heard a cartoon figure read what I found out was from the Bible at the end of the book. Linus read something about the birth of Jesus. Oh, that's the Bible? I didn't realize. Oh, and that's what I hear at church in the gospel. I thought only the priest could read that. Again, didn't have experience with the Bible. Public school, move on, seventh grade. Now I'm in a class on ancient Mesopotamia. Never heard of it before. Never heard of Mesopotamia. And we were learning about all these cultures of people and hieroglyphics and all kinds of Egyptian styles of culture and all those kinds of things. And I'm like, but how does the Bible fit in here? And of course, in a public school, I didn't learn that. Like I knew about Moses and King David and some of these key biblical figures, but they never appeared in these public school textbooks. And then I started thinking, oh, okay, that's kind of just the Bible stuff that I hear at church is more just story based. It's more of a fictional account. It's not based in history, and that's pretty dangerous for a young Catholic to think that way. Fortunately, by the time I got to college, and I did go to a Catholic college, I started to have classes about the Bible and study the Bible and exegesis and historical criticism and all those things. I really gravitated towards, really enjoyed learning about how the Bible was created, how the 3 stages of the Bible that, no one was walking around with a tape recorder when Jesus was doing his public ministry. That was really the first stage of the Bible. And then, then skip ahead 30 years. You have 30 years of people sharing the stories orally before it was even written down. And then when it was written down, it was for particular audiences, and some things changed between the 2 different versions. So there's a real investigation that goes on when you study the Bible, and I really appreciated it. One of my favorites is, in Mark's gospel, Mark has James and John asking Jesus if they can be the greatest when they get to the kingdom of God. And so this is, again, 30 years after he died and rose and went to heaven. So 30 years later, James and John, like, they're famous bishops, right? And they've got congregations, parishes, and people looking up to them. And their people probably said to them, like, whoa, you guys really didn't get it, did you? That's not the way Jesus intended to ask to be the greatest. You're supposed to lay down your life and serve, and not ask to be great in the kingdom of God. So then the interesting part to me always is in Matthew's gospel, that probably came later. Matthew changes it around to the mother of James and John asked the question, who can be the greatest? And so, of course, the mother 30 years later is probably long dead. So there'd be no embarrassment there. And James and John, the great bishops, are off the hook. So that kind of stuff is really interesting. And I think it really lends to knowing the real Jesus, and we're all smart. We all went to school. We live in America. We can handle that kind of thing. We're Catholics. We understand the Bible. We're not fundamentalists. We want to investigate, and we want to find out what the Bible's all about. So there's different ways to do it. I mean, built in your parish, you can connect with a diocesan exegetical course on the Bible. You can run one yourself. You can bring in speakers to do that. You can suggest to people to read the Bible individually. I know that Patricia Heaton, that name, actress, she was on Everybody Loves Raymond and The Middle more recently, and she's a returning Catholic. She just had a thing about a year ago where she said she was reading the Bible from cover to cover, and she would never do that again, because, you get locked into those Old Testament books and stuff, and it becomes difficult. But there are reading plans for an individual. Start with the gospel, go from that way that you can recommend to an older person, and then a lot of the events and the groups, things that are going on in parishes already are based on the Bible. Might have a Lenten soup supper group going on right now where older people are participating, where there's Bible readings, and those naturally lend themselves to going further and reading the Bible and knowing about it. So those things are all built in. And then this one, for older people, it's not, you're not doing a workshop or a lesson on going to daily mass, but this is a place to find older Catholics and a place to encourage Catholics to gather when they're retired or when they have just 10, 12, 15 years left. Go to daily mass, and you already see a lot of them that do. I want to go to daily mass when I'm retired from work. And you also see that when they're there, they form groups. A lot of times they go out to breakfast after, or they catch a cup of coffee, or they at least talk on the way out to the car. So those are natural groups of older people that you can draw on, that you can bring into other programming. Encourage other older people when they have time to go to daily mass. I mean, if you want to talk about, I put this ant trail there. We're so lucky that we have this source where Jesus is truly present at the mass. So even though I didn't learn the word transubstantiation when CCD switched over to post-Vatican II, probably not till I was in college, I understand it a little more now, and I understand that Jesus is truly present there. The reason I think of an ant trail, so if you imagine an ant trail, you've all seen it, where their ants are off to get a popsicle on the sidewalk. So we can stand above that ant trail, and we can look at the ants at the very, very start of that journey, all the way to the ones that are eating the popsicle. And you can also see some ants that have veered off and gone a completely different direction and will never get to the popsicle. We're all watching that happen right now in our time. We're looking down on it. But in ant time, those ants at the beginning of the line, what is that, like a 10-day journey to get to the popsicle? So it's 10 days in ant time, but we're watching it happen now. Well, God is watching all of life happen now, from beginning to end, from the time of the first people to now, with that central piece in the middle of the Paschal mystery, the Last Supper. where Jesus offered himself up and was truly present to his apostles. So we're actually present at that Last Supper occasion. So when I think of Jesus present with us, when I go to Mass, it's all happening right this second. And sometimes you think of like, hey, the first apostles were the luckiest ones because they got to walk with him and know him. I think we're even luckier because we get to have him inside of us in the bread and wine that's blessed, that really is his. And that Pope Pius quote there, I really hold to it because the surest, easiest, shortest way to heaven is the Eucharist. So going to daily Mass is something that I want to do. Try to add to that occasion now, like go at least one extra time a week while I'm still working. But when I stop working, I do want to be a daily Mass goer. So besides daily Mass, where can you find these cool Vatican II Catholics that once attended the Beatles concerts when they first came to America that are now old? You can find them in a lot of places already around your parish. They're in, like I said, in Bible study groups, prayer groups. They're already going to Mass. They're in the now called OCIA or RCIA as catechumens. They're sponsoring people. They're also catechumens themselves. So they're old people that are coming into the church. They're in adult confirmation programs. They're grandparents at your school and religious ed, and they're also coming back to the church in droves, hopefully. And then they're also beginning to appear in these senior groups like in the picture. So this is kind of the more traditional way to think of old people, which is really us, really me. I'll be doing this too, sitting around tables and stuff. So they're already there. So some of these ways to help them intentionally prepare for their particular judgment that I've just talked about can be done in conjunction with these groups where you already see them around your parish. And besides the ones like studying the Bible and praying more, there's all kinds of topics you can do with these people. And these are the topics that I wrote about in a book that I have out now. You can talk about how to make a pilgrimage and all these different things you can read on here. Build physical fitness as much as they can. Definitely reconnect with family and friends. A lot of times that involves saying sorry and correcting something that happened. I mean, again, why not? Why not do it? You have time to do it now. Might as well do it now. So some techniques for doing that. Learning how to care for the sick and care for the poor are other things. You can talk about how to do it. And I think these meetings would be really short. Again, in conjunction with what might already be going on, other places that older people meeting around the parish. So how could you do it? So let's talk about if you want to encourage older people they have time now. How can you care for the poor in a better way? So begin with a prayer, have a presentation by someone, maybe like from an agency in your community that serves the poor. So old people like to hear talks from people on the outside and presentations. And so if you promoted like, hey, from, John Doe from the local homeless shelter is going to be here this week, and he's going to talk about all that's going on there and ways we can help. That's going to be an attraction. It's something to do. It's something to get out of the house, get dressed, come down to the parish and learn about that. So after the presentations, then how about an opportunity for them to share memories from their life on how they've already cared for the poor throughout their life. I was trying to think of for myself. I know my parents, again, I lived in LA, but a couple times we went to Tijuana and into Mexico, and we spent a day in an orphanage with other families. And I remember as a kid, 11 and 12 years old, the memory I have is like playing baseball out on the field with kids that lived there and having a great time. So share memories of how we've done this skill, not this example's care for the poor, but share memories of how, you've read the Bible in the past, prayed, all those kinds of things. Let them talk and share memories of their life. They have experience. And then what can we do now? So it could probably related to the presentation they heard. Maybe your parish had, for this example, caring for the poor, maybe your parish has, they're going to serve a meal for the homeless at Thanksgiving. And how can these people participate? They can be host or help prepare some side dishes, those kinds of things. So what can you do now? And then what can you do in the future? And then this would be kind of a big dream, because what I like about old age, even though the years may be numbered, is that there's a lot of like things that I have freedom, like without having to raise kids, and just kind of don't have to go to little league games and pick up kids and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of possibilities, and one of those is like the example here I put was Catholic Relief Services. Aaron mentioned we have a chapter at our work, but maybe you could participate in that. I'm involved with it, and I look on the Zoom screen when I in these large group meetings. They're all old people that are doing this, and so they're helping to advocate through CRS to legislators. Something I never thought I'd be interested in doing, but it's been really fun. And it's fun to learn a new skill at this age, something that I haven't done before, and it keeps you active and keeps your mind sharp, that kind of thing. And then after you've had these parts, there could be discussion at the end, a little bit more like, hey, like, how can we enact the plan that we talked about, and then a prayer to end. So that's an opportunity. And I'm just putting this picture out here because to remind you that old people are now look like this. Like, not too bad, right? Okay, like, I think we're looking all right at this age. I don't think we look like, the old grandmother that was hunched over in the room on Christmas Day and seemed old. I think we're looking like pretty cool people at this age. So I'm happy to do that and happy to be like that. Also knowing though that the time is limited. So that's about it. Aaron told me I could put up a picture of my new book, which is around like that. Oh, and she cut me on that.
No, we still see it.
Okay, you still see
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
we still see it.
So
Yep.
that's the book. And if you do get it, I put those dates on there, like for parish stuff. I'm always willing to do a talk like this, a presentation through Zoom, and those dates are dates that I'm going to get to some of those places, and there's opportunities to get to other places if you ever want something around your parish and you want to get a hold of that copy, and I'd be glad to do that. But that's it. So nice
Awesome.
talking with y'all.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mike. I invite all of you on with us today to send in questions that you have for Mike, or maybe share with us some of the things that your parish is already doing for, your older generation. I think you gave us so many great ideas, Mike, and would love to hear more of what people are doing. If you want to take a screenshot of this picture here, of this slide that Mike has, where he's going to be in the upcoming months, feel free to do that also. So as we're waiting for some of these questions to come in, I like the intentionality of, as you're talking about how the senior citizens, let's call them, are coming to church, right? They're coming to these events. And so to shape more intentional topics or themes to help them begin, it seems like, or continue maybe, what you've already begun to think about, right? What you are going to do when that day comes, which will come for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, if you go in any church on Sunday right now, we're the majority. Us old
Uh-huh.
people. I hope there's going to be more young people, but a lot of gray in my church and other churches that I go to. So it'd be nice to keep everyone involved as much as possible, and find some ways to keep them busy and stimulated. I know the daily mass thing is another reason it's important to me, is because when I retire, it's going to be a motivation to get up every day, get dressed, go in the car, go down to church, and go somewhere, not just like stay in bed till whatever time and not do anything all day. So
Yeah.
it'll help me keep me on schedule. So just for that aspect of it, it'll be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important for health too, right? As
For
when we
sure.
become sedentary, other problems come along with that. And the other thing I was thinking about as you were talking is opportunities not only just for the older people to gather together, but intergenerational
Mhm,
opportunities.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the CRS thing that I just mentioned, Catholic Relief Services, Aaron's in the group with me as well, um, and we're here at Notre Dame. Well, we've also partnered with students at Notre Dame and St. Mary's, and I really love that aspect of it. That we get to interact with kids, and they have the same kind of goals that we do to help other people and great ideas. I mean, like you can say we have experience and that they don't have, but they have like an enthusiasm that we don't have, and also I think a different kind of courage for them to participate in something like this when
Mhm.
their peers aren't a lot of their peers aren't doing these kinds of things, practicing their faith. So really inspiring to me. I love being around kids,
Yeah.
and I one of the chapters in the book as far as staying involved is I still, and Aaron mentioned, I still coach Little League baseball, so I'm around 12-year-olds. It's about to start up again, and I'm still out there pitching batting practice and hanging around with them, and it's great to be around them. And older people can also do that with their own grandkids and stuff too. But yeah,
Yeah.
intergenerational is awesome for
Yeah.
sure.
And you mentioned your childhood, and it was your parents that really passed down the faith to you. At least the desire to be a cultural Catholic, I think, is the term you used. But now a lot of young people, their parents aren't passing that faith down. So real calling, or a goal for the older generation to pass it down in an authentic way, right? In a natural way, but also helpful for the future of our church.
Oh yeah, and believe me, I don't have any answers to that.
I know,
you know,
right?
um, Except for prayer.
Mhm.
So um, yeah, we're all facing that. The only thing I was thinking of, like, when Saint Monica was having trouble with her son Saint Augustine, Saint Ambrose the bishop told her, like, talk to God more about your son than your son about God, and it's kind of the process I take with like my own adult kids.
Mhm.
Prayer.
Yes, prayer. Say that quote again, Mike.
Um, talk talk to God more about your son rather than to your son about God.
About God. Yeah,
So
yeah. That's something I think all of us can take to heart and
for
reflect on
sure.
and pray about for sure.
Wow.
Okay, got a question coming in here. Great ideas for those attending church events. I am visiting those homebound and formed a group within a common dwelling and can parallel some parish ideas. Any other suggestions for those homebound, meeting in a home?
Yeah, I mean, some definitely some of those ways to connect with people that through. I I mean, my mom to the very end didn't want to do social media or the internet, but if you can encourage people like that to do social media and internet and to reach out to people they knew when they were kids, just through that way, and then once that gets going, then to make a phone call, and or even teach them how to Zoom. And what an exciting thing to. I love it personally. Some people don't like the talking to people from their past. I do. I like staying in touch with my friends that I grew up with. They're my best friends. They know me the most. They know me the way I am, and so maybe that would be a way to do it. Definitely some of the other topics, like encouraging them different forms of prayer and Bible study and stuff, can be done in that kind of a setting. I know the book that I did right now, like I'm going out to do some talks, not at parishes, but to retirement homes. And so, you know, we'll see how it goes. But those are the groups that have been reaching out more than even the parishes. So, yeah. And then I also have a chapter in there about living in that kind of a situation. I mean, it seems like in the past, who wants to, but in a lot of ways, if if you have to do it, you have to do it, and then also make the most of it, and that's kind of my attitude now, is like, if that happens to me, I'm going to make the most of it, and use those last years well,
Mhm.
prayer, interacting with the people that I live with, connecting with people that I through social media or phone or whatever, writing letters, those kinds of things. exercising when I can. They all have, rehab programs in those places, participating with a good attitude, those kinds of things you can do, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna take back presenter mode here from you.
Okay.
Well, Mike, I really appreciate you sharing all of this with us, and especially, sharing your desire to help others live the best, in these last years of their life. And I love the image of your movie, watching your particular judgment, and I think that alone could be a great exercise to do in a small group.
Sure.
Um, and of course, it's sensitive, but I think it would start people thinking and sharing and opening up about it. Sometimes you don't feel as alone when you do that. Yeah,
We have a merciful God, and we don't have to fear. So,
that's right. That's
yeah.
right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Hey,
And
welcome.
yeah, Mike shared a code if you wanted to purchase in bulk, but as those of you who've been on with us before, you know that we always share a code to offer you a discount, 25% off Mike's new book using code webinar0312 for today's date. And the title is Reaching for Heaven 14 Spiritual Goals as You Grow Older. You can purchase this from us. You can purchase this on Amazon, anywhere you buy books. So I definitely know it'll be a great and inspiring read for you. And Mike, there's reflection questions in the back.
Yeah, for every chapter, actually. So
Yeah.
there's some questions that you can use in that discussion piece, for sure.
So this could be great use of for a small group discussion, book club. Yeah.
RCIA, OCIA.
RCIA, yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, again, thank you everybody for being with us. Thank you for sharing this hour with us, Mike. And I invite all of you to join us March 26th. Amy Catapan, a seasoned teacher, is going to talk about how she created a posse of saints to support her in the classroom with all of the challenges and blessings and what she learned from these saints, most especially that she could apply to her classroom so she could be the teacher that God wants her to be for each and every one of her children. So I invite you to join us on March 26th. Other than that, thank you, everybody. Thanks again. Have a great week. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.